We'll call the Newport City Council meeting to order for Monday, February 4th, 2019, 6:30 p.m. City Council Room. All members of the council are present, with the exception of Mr. Shinet, who is absent this evening. Others include James Johnson, our clerk treasurer, and Laura Dogan, our city manager. The next item will be to approve the minutes of January 21st, 2019, and I would entertain a motion on that.
So moved.
A motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Made and seconded to approve the minutes of January 21st. Is there any discussion? Then hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I have to abstain, I wasn't here.
Okay, then I will vote aye. Next will be to approve the minutes of January 29th, 2019, and I would entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Discussion on that. Then hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you. The next is the comments by members of the... Well, hello, Mr. Shinet. Okay. Next is comments by members of the public. We have Jennifer Smith from the Garden to give us, she wants to give us a Garden Park fundraising update. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, hi, I'm Jennifer Smith, and I am the Newport Recreation Committee chair. So a little bit about me. I spearheaded this Gardner Park restoration fundraising idea several years ago, but we've just rejuvenated it, and I'm really glad to, proud actually, to announce to everyone that we have, since our last meeting less than a month ago, we have raised over $1,200 with our Super Bowl squares and with our Chuck-a-Puck that we had this last weekend. Currently, right now, we are selling our ice out tickets for Vanilla Ice on the lake, so if anyone wants to buy any, there's plenty in-house. And I just wanted to give a quick update. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ann Sherlow, unworn vote.
Hi. Last council meeting, at the full council meeting, during new business, the issue was raised of the petitions that 260 citizens had signed, and whether or not they would be put on the ballot. It's always been the rule here, and sometimes we seem to forget it, but it's always been the rule that before a vote, there has to be a warning that it's got to be an agenda item, and it can't be something that's simply raised in new business. I can assure you that if the public, all 260 maybe, or some of us who had signed that petition, had been aware that there was going to be a vote that night on whether or not the petition should be added, as we expected it would be, even automatically, to the vote that's going to take place in March, more of us would have been here to comment on it. We can't simply raise an issue in new business and then get a vote on it. It is totally unfair. It is the essence of our democracy that people should know ahead of time what's going to be on the agenda, and they can decide whether or not to come based on that, and based on that they can decide whether or not they're going to comment on those issues before a vote. You did not allow that. I submit to you that that vote that you took last time is null and void by all the rules and points of order about how we proceed in Vermont on votes. And I suggest, if it's appropriate, you could have a revote, but that vote is null and void. And therefore, the petitions, right now as it stands, the petitions to, first of all, have a vote on whether or not Newport should allow leachate, and secondly, whether or not Newport approves or disapproves of the expansion of the landfill should be on the ballot. The vote you took last time was null and void.
Anybody, no other comments? We'll move on.
Well, I would ask the council to give me their view of the law on that, because one of the council members recently was even appalled when an agenda item was on the agenda, but it didn't say parentheses vote after
Well,
it.
public comment is, you've made your public comment.
And I would,
The vote-
and my
the vote
question,
stands.
my question is.
Excuse me, I am speaking. When I'm speaking, I will let you, okay, let me just finish my thought. That vote is legal. That is a legal vote.
Can you explain to me how it becomes legal when you didn't warn it?
It does not have to be warned. That vote did not have to be warned.
Why not?
It does not have to be warned. The council, this is a meeting of the council, for the council to conduct city business. I raised the issue because the VLCT and the city attorney both advised us not to put that on the ballot. And we're not the only community to do things like that. Burlington just did it. So it's nothing new. We're not earth-shattering in Newport, Vermont. Burlington just had an issue where they had 1,000 signatures or something on petitions. They voted not to put an item on
And
the
did
ballot.
they warn it first?
I don't know, I didn't ask the mayor of
Do you all
Burlington
feel
Thursday.
that way?
Well, I didn't ask the mayor of Burlington when I spoke with him about it. He commented about what happened here, and he said they did the same thing on an issue. And so we're not breaking ground here. And it's non-binding anyway. VLCT, it's non-binding. Vermont is a non-referendum state. I tell people that. We are under the creatures of the state of Vermont and Montpelier. They clearly state what town meeting is for, pretty much. And so we did nothing illegal with that vote.
So you don't have to warn anything anymore. Why bother even putting it out ahead of
Councils in
time?
the past used to have things under new and old business and vote on it. We've only changed that in the last few years to try to make it convenient for the public, not convenient, but will you quit interrupting and laughing and let me finish what I'm saying?
Does this
Yes.
look like a laugh?
Well, no, but let me finish what
Right.
I'm saying, okay? Councils, would you like to leave?
Not yet.
Would you like to say what you just said publicly and for the record?
I responded to the city manager who scowled at me.
Would you like to say what you said in
Not
public?
really.
Oh, okay then, but I heard
I
it.
would really like to know what she said.
Well, you could, they would have to bleep it out of the tape.
Are you
I
that-
heard it.
You're that tall of a person? That's too bad. That's
Well,
too
let
bad.
me finish.
Gosh.
Another reason why I brought it up when I did is because of the timing of the warning. I was asked by the Chronicle about the ballot, about the petition item. Joe emailed me, I read that at the last meeting. I don't know if I should go through this whole thing again, but I will. He emailed me a question. I couldn't answer it completely. I did say that Vermont's a non-referendum state and that it would be non-binding. But he has my complete email. Then at the last meeting, I brought it up under old business because the VLCT, who we follow, and our city attorney for once, they both actually agreed and recommended not putting it on the ballot. And so there was nothing illegal about it. So we're not the only community.
No, the question is,
Statute
did
is
you
very
need to
clear.
warn it?
We do not have to warn things that this council votes on. We generally do it, but the timing in that case, we had to approve the warning last week, so there's no way it could have gotten on the ballot. We had a special meeting last week to approve the warning. So it was a timing issue too. And that's why I raised it. And I didn't want it, I could have just said, okay, we had a ruling from the attorney, I could have just,
Vermont statute does not require that votes be warned. We did our research. The vote at the October 15th, 2018 meeting to stop taking leachate was not warned. You set precedent there. You followed up with old business at the December 17th meeting. You haven't done anything wrong, so the accusations are unfounded.
I think I created the vote. The point I wanted to make was I wanted everybody to state their position. So there was two motions. The first one was to put it on It went by no second. So I decided, well, let's make a motion not to put it on. Then everybody had to say yay or nay. Now, as far as I'm concerned, we did have a Vermont League of Cities and Towns recommendation. We had one from the attorney. If you went to the Secretary of State and you looked at their website, they tended to say it should have been on. All right, so I think for me, the vote was just so that they'd have to step up and say, I don't want to put it on the warning. And they did that.
And I
And
said,
there's nothing wrong with that.
and I
All
clearly.
right, because this file was here. I don't think any of you out there want us all to rubber stamp something every time it goes by.
No.
All right?
But I do want it to be on the agenda. And it was not an agenda item, and there was never a motion in any way, shape, or form to put it on the agenda. So that's what I'm complaining about.
I understand, but Mr. Johnson can tell you that he had to send the warning out before we had our next meeting to have it printed. So,
It's not going, it can't go on now anyway, it's already
Right.
been warned and approved.
And when you had that motion, we stated why we voted the way we did. And I based mine on the VOCT and the league, their recommendation. So with that, we'll close public comment. The next item on the agenda is the Vermont Route 191 Access Road Rehabilitation Project, planning for the summer 2019 construction and road closure. We have Bruce Martin from the Vermont Agency of Transportation, Richard Tatro, and Annabelle Daly, I almost said Daly Daly, from WSP Incorporated. And Mr. Martin has a presentation, and
Thank you all. Like I said, my name is Bruce Martin. I work for the V-Trans Roadway Design Group. Roadway Design is in charge of full depth reconstruction projects, slope stabilization projects, and also culvert rehabilitation projects. This project is actually unique because it has all three features in one. This project has been around for quite a while, actually. Anybody who drives 191 notices that there's a pretty serious dip, and it's pretty prevalent right here. You can see the guardrail. It takes about a 1 foot drop here through that dip area. So it just shows, kind of illustrates the issue that we're dealing with at this location. So some of the project history is the road was built in 1971, and shortly after they started seeing settlement. They tried to install some under drains to relieve some of the water that was under the slope itself, but they continue to see settlement of up to 4 inches per year. And in 1986, because every time there's a settlement, what we do is come through, pave over it, just to even out the roadway itself. So in 1986, they came through and removed 4 feet of pavement in the slide area, and at that point, it was really warranted that we needed to take a bigger look and deeper look at the subsurface soils and material that is under the roadway itself. So from 1989 to 1991, subsurface investigation was completed, and a counter berm on the bottom of the slope was actually built to try to hold it back. More project history, and there's a culvert that is very deep in this location. And in 1996, the sinkhole was created because the slope kept sliding, and it actually separated the culvert itself, and material migrated down, causing a sinkhole. So we realized at that time that more extensive testing had to be done. So from 1996 to 2013, there was continued maintenance and more testing as well, and a lot more subsurface investigation was done from 2006 to 2001 because we were realizing that there was actually material that was migrating to the Clyde River from this slope itself. We had additional inclinometers, piezometers, and monitoring wells installed. The inclinometers basically just measure the deformation of the slope, just shows the minor increases that it takes. And in 2015, we finally had a recommendation that the best way to approach relieving the issues at this site is to actually install wells. We've had some options of putting in passive wells, which just lets the water drain. And the option that we decided on is actually putting active wells into the slope to relieve some of the water pressure. These are wells that you basically have at your house. It's like 5 gallons per minute that are going to be running constantly. Got the next slide to show you. So the root of the slope failure is actually a lot deeper than the roadway itself. During the investigation, it's found that the water was actually moving from approximately 120 feet below the roadway. It was migrating through this layer of clay and actually following through to the Clyde River, where sediment was actually coming out into the Clyde, and all that material that was migrating was causing the road just to slowly move and filter down. So our proposal here, putting in these active wells, we want to put them at the toe of the slope. Here's 191 headed down into Newport itself. So down at the bottom of the bank, between the road and the abandoned power canal, we want to put these wells in there that will go down to the water layer. Like I said, we'll be actively pumping this water to relieve this pressure that was built up from this water that is 120 feet below the roadway itself. That should relieve all the migration material and be able to keep the roadway intact. Next one. The other thing that we're going to do as part of this project is replace the culvert that had failed back in 1996. This is a very deep culvert. We're looking at 35 feet deep. This is one of the reasons why we're here to speak with you, is because this is going to be the biggest roadway impact itself. Because of the slope instability, we don't want to do any kind of trenchless installation. What we want to do is dig down to a full depth of 35 feet, take out what is there, replace the culvert itself, and then fill it back in. So digging down 35 feet, this is a very, very large excavation. It's going to be 1 on 2 slopes. It's going to be cut back quite a bit. There's going to be a lot of machinery in here to do this, and there's going to be a very sizable hole. For that reason, we thought it was the best idea to close the road, have a local detour, and send the traffic up one more exit to exit 28, I believe it is.
Yeah.
It's, and then around from Derby down Route 5 itself. So total from point to point, it's like 7 miles. But if you're just coming up, if you're coming up 91, it's another 2.5 miles to the exit, and another 3 miles into Newport itself. So we thought this would be the best option to close the road, let the contractor have the road all to themselves, dig down as fast as they can, and get in, get out, try to rip the Band-Aid as fast as we can. We are proposing that they have 6 weeks in this closure to start probably in late June after school is out. And we'll try to incentivize it to get them in and out as fast as possible. But we just really came to realize that getting the road closed would be the best option for a ease of construction due to the nature of this project itself. Once they do put the road back up, we will, reconstruct the roadway in its entirety, get rid of that dip. We'll have the wells installed, and relieve some of the pressure, the water pressure that is down below. I did bring Rich and Annabelle along as well. They work for WSP Incorporated, and I just want them to kind of stand up and kind of give a take on their role in this.
Sure. Thank you, Bruce. Hi, Rich Tatro, WSP. And what we do is provide a service of public outreach to the state of Vermont. We're a full-service engineering firm, but one of the components of the service is this line of work. And done it on a number, V-Trans, as many of you know, has done this on a number of occasions. In fact, just down here in Newport a few years ago, where the bridge project was underway. And it takes proactive public outreach, and that's what we bring to this project. So we want to maximize every opportunity to engage with you, other neighboring communities, in getting out there and managing expectations in the summer ahead, and also minimizing any disruptions or unknown. Occasionally things can pop up, and you want to manage any disruption and get the word out as soon as possible. But this project is pretty well laid out and should go pretty smoothly. So the first step of what we get into in serving V-Trans is establish a solid stakeholder relationship list of people in the community, neighboring communities, and we've already shared a draft list with the city manager, and we're going back and forth with Laura on populating that sheet, and we'll leave a copy of that today. Annabelle will talk more about it, but getting that nailed down well will help all of us in making sure we don't miss anyone and letting them know what's coming out here this summer. And then we will do some interviews, and then also let it be known there'll be a public meeting for a broader audience a couple weeks before the construction actually starts, so that we can get into more of the details and explain what can be expected in the summer. So I'll let Annabelle explain more about what we provide to the agency.
Hi everybody, my name is Annabelle Daly with WSP. I'm going to be the boots on the ground for this job for public outreach. So I'll be your primary contact if you have any questions or inquiries that come up throughout construction. We do have a fact sheet up front which has our project email, which I'll be answering, and we also have a 24-hour hotline service that you can call, which I will also answer. We will be doing a construction update, which we usually do weekly unless there's something unforeseen that we need to send out an additional traffic alert. That will basically let you know what's coming up for the next week. And then obviously if there's any emergencies, we would be using that as well. That's going to be mostly through email. So if you are interested in receiving a weekly construction update, you're going to want to reach out to us either from the hotline or the info email, and then we'll put you on our contact list. And we do that just by talking to our resident engineer, Kevin McClure, who's actually in the back. And he tells me basically what's going on, and then I get all the information out to you guys. That's basically it.
So the main reason to be here is basically, like Rich said, we want to bring awareness to everybody. I mean, this project is coming in June. We want to get out in front of it just so you are aware that it is coming. And just to let you know what the scope is. So when the road is closed, this is the reason why. I mean, this is a project that has been going on, been failing since 1971. So now we have a plan that has been tested and evaluated for many, many years, and it's a very unique project. This is something that does not happen anywhere across the state. I've never been a part of that. I don't think anybody in Detroit has actually participated in something like this before. So it is very unique, and it's a very unique situation. But like I said, we're here to just bring awareness that we are moving forward with this project after all these years, and we're kind of excited to actually see this one be constructed, because I know how bad that roadway actually is. So we'll open this up for any questions.
I'd like the council to have questions first before the public.
That's fine.
Okay. Do you know how many cars, I have some questions, how many cars use that every day? Have they done a count to see?
We do have a count. I don't know the number off the top of my head. I
Just
apologize for that, but we do have a count. I can provide that to you.
And then it's closed for 6 weeks?
Yes.
So if you had to close it completely, that would have made the project go even longer. But you have to close it because of the nature of the project.
The nature
it's
of the
not
project.
Like, right.
If we tried to phase construction here, it'd be very difficult because of the excavation that we are making. We'd have to basically build temporary roadways off the side and fill it in, build other temporary roadways, and there's a lot of earthwork that have to be done. So by getting in, closing the road, we're actually be able to do this a whole lot faster and unimpeded.
And just a curiosity question, the wells that you're building, now you're pumping water out of them towards the Clyde? Is that how
it's going to actually be going to the canal?
The canal.
Yeah. So it'll be pumped out and just open flow.
Open flow.
So, yes.
Yes, I know it's a unique situation. I knew the person who worked on the project. I was telling Rich, Omar Charquette did quite a bit. He was there and he told me it was quite a unique situation when they dug down and found all that water.
Yeah.
So,
okay, there's just all the numbers for me. We're looking at probably around 3,800 vehicles per day.
3,800 a day, okay. 3,800. Okay, very good. Council members, and then I'll...
The wells, you said they're going to be active pumping.
Yes.
Who's going to supply the electricity to them?
We are going to be running electricity down the road, actually, with Vermont Electric. I believe it is. Is it Beck? It's up here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are going to be running electricity down.
And so these will be pumping 24/7?
They'll be active wells, yes.
Who's getting the bill?
would be the state of Vermont.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that electric bill.
Yeah.
These are low end wells, so they don't draw a lot. We actually looked into solar power, but it just wasn't feasible at this site.
Other questions from?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I assume that the ends of Pine Hill, Crawford Road, and Citizens Road will be blocked off?
They will not.
They will not. How is that gonna work?
They will be accessible at all times. I mean, we're in the middle of the road here, and where we're located. There aren't any roads connecting, so we're just shutting down
The middle.
the roadway itself. Yeah, the middle.
So somebody could go up Mount Vernon and end up getting on the exit?
They could get on here, yes.
Okay.
The key will be tractor trailers. I can't picture a tractor trailer trying to come down. But maybe the Crawford Road, it may be tight, but Mount Vernon Street would be kind of an interesting to make those. So I think there'd probably be more truck traffic detours than automobile.
Yeah.
I would think.
And we can't sign local detours like this. I mean, we have a state route that we can utilize, so that's why we are signing that. And one of the contacts that Annabelle has is actually the trucking companies, just to make them, aware of the situation. But local roads, you're the locals, you know the roads.
Thank you.
Other questions from? Okay.
What could be done, Mr. Mayor, for the residents on Mount Vernon Street? Maybe a sign saying no through traffic, or something to discourage people. Not that they all pay attention to it, but.
Yeah.
it's an
Just
effort.
something,
Yeah.
But it's for 6 weeks, which if you're getting a lot of detoured cars, I was more concerned about the trucks. Someone trying to get stuck, you could have a truck
Right.
come down, and so I think I can make it, and then all of a sudden he's stuck.
Absolutely.
So I think it'll be more of the truck traffic than the cars. Anything else from the council then?
Just to add on to that, there is an option for a bypass mitigation grant, which I've actually discussed with Laura. It's actually funding that I can put in for the city to actually get some money to help with enforcement, if that was what you'd be looking for. These are going to be utilized for local roads. I mean, we understand that we're actually using these roads, so I mean, we can basically count off the mileage here and the duration and try to get some funding for you.
I wouldn't be surprised, a lot of the 3,800 cars of the people going to and from Ethan Allen, going to work down. It's a lot of traffic, I didn't realize there was that many on that road
And the
each
golf
day.
course.
The golf course and all that, so. Sue?
Susan Watson from Newport resident. I've been traveling this road since 1969 and I know the problems. What really concerns me is your timing. When you say the end of June, that takes us into mid-August. That is our high tourist season. I would ask that you relook at this and maybe decide to go from mid-August through September. I am here tonight with another group that is promoting the Northern Star boat on the lake. We have worked very hard for the last year and a half to preserve this, and we're going to depend highly on tourists that come in here. Now, I don't know of the 3,800, how many of those are tourists, but you are cutting down an area of the high tourist season. And I would really ask that you consider maybe starting in mid-August when we know the Barton Fair comes and it's the end of the summer and tourists aren't coming. So please reconsider that. I am truly glad that Omar Shawkat, God rest his soul, made a lot of money on this, but he lives in Derby and we didn't get the benefit of that. So, but I loved Omar. But please consider what you're doing to Newport by cutting down the tourist season by 6 weeks. This is really, really detrimental to us. We that are supporting the Northern Star. Thank you, Paul.
Well, we have some other people,
Yeah, just to clarify, I'm Patrick Martell. I'm a Derby resident. Actually, I live off Pine Hill, so you're kind of going to bookend the Crawford Road, Pine Hill as a shutdown just past that, and then where the light is, I would assume, right, that one section of the area. So we would still have access to traffic down through the town as normal, just a different way, other than truck traffic. So, okay, just to clarify, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, so the act from the Crawford Road to the light, that's gonna be completely closed, both in and out.
Correct. Yeah. Crawford Road comes right here. Yeah. So we would be shutting the road off down here.
And, Mr. Mayor, and I see that you said the gentleman said 6 weeks, but I see begin work 2019 and end in November 19, or is that?
What?
That is the construction of the entire project. We're only talking about a road closure in that time frame, but that project was actually advertised last week. So there's stuff that they can do off of the roadway itself that will take up that time frame.
So that the window that, and I'm sorry, I'm directing my question to the mayor. But the window that he said is going to be closed is for the culvert replacement. What is anybody spoken to the chiefs, Chief DeSanto and Chief LeClaire and Newport Ambulance about alternate routes? You know, can they get the emergency vehicles up through there if they need to, or has there been any consideration about that?
Well, both chiefs are here, and they'd like to address that.
The city managers briefed us on it months ago.
We have many alternate routes for fires.
Okay, so Mr. Mayor, 191 is not extremely essential for those 6 weeks. Is that what I'm understanding?
There's other routes, the way I look at it. There's other routes, and so it's not like you have to go. You said it's 2 miles to the next exit, but they're still going to be able to get down, go Pine Hill to Mount Vernon. You know, some of those cars, and so it's really more of an inconvenience for the truck traffic. If you think about it.
Tourists, too.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Bernier.
Mr. Mayor, I think we all remember when we closed the Long Bridge. That was a whole year without the bridge. I think 6 weeks. Everybody that lives locally knows the roads around. I don't think it's really a big deal. And of course, they want to do it during the best time of the summer. I'd want to do the same thing. But I really don't think it's going to be that big of an inconvenience on the city.
Anything else? Well, thank you. When do you expect or plan to have the big public outreach and like a public meeting?
The public meeting is for the pre-closure, and that is to happen 2 weeks before the closure.
2 weeks before? Okay.
So like I said, the project was advertised last week, so we put it out for 3.5 weeks, and then we'll have a contractor on board, and then we'll have a better idea of their schedule and their time frame. And when that does come around, we'll be able to schedule that meeting for the public to come.
I'm sorry, I have to remember this. When you say advertise, do you mean you put it out to bid?
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else? Well, thank you.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you. The next item is presentation from Newport City Elementary School Principal Elaine Collins.
Everybody stand.
Wherever you feel like to go.
What's that, right here? Whoops.
Pull that chair up.
Okay. Oh, you're welcome. I tried to bake a little bit yesterday with my granddaughter, but she's 3 and we got through pancakes and I was like, okay, that's enough. We're not gonna make anything more today.
No cookies for us.
No cookies for you this year.
This is what I do when I burn cookies. You bring the backup candy.
I'm afraid we might have burned cookies. I have worked with her before, but she was in rare form yesterday. So, this is our annual meeting, right? I come usually every year and talk with you guys about what the budget is looking like and what we're up to for the course of this school year. And
And to also invite you to come to our informational budget meeting, which is February 25th in the library in the school at 6 p.m. It's on the bottom of this note that I sent out to Laura for you to look at. I know that you are, like everybody else, we're always tax sensitive and wondering what budgets are going to be doing to taxes. We're in the enviable position that our our spending is going down and our tax rate is going down. Some years you can have your spending can go down and your tax rate can go up, but this year we're in a good place where our spending is down about $156,000 from our prior year, which means that that factors into a decrease of a little more than 3 cents in our tax rate. That's not because we cut things in our services to students, it's because we had some retirements. In our budgeting in the year for this last year, we usually budget for mid-level salaries and full health insurance, and we were able to hire folks that weren't on that high up on the pay scale and didn't require health insurance. So that was a real savings to us. We also did a little bit of reconfiguring in the office staff, and were able to cut, $20,000 and cut a couple of paraprofessional positions. So, although our spending is down, it's not at the cost of programs for our students. Our work really continues to be around being a resilient community, and that's really because of the work that's needed for kids of trauma, kids who have some regrettable circumstances or past experiences, and so our work as a professional staff and non-professional staff has really been to build a sense of resilience in our kids, which is good for all kids, not just kids of trauma. I was a kid of trauma before trauma was a thing, and so that sense of resilience can work. I'm 50 years old and sitting before you as the head of a pretty large institution, and that's because I have a lot of protective factors that my extended family and school community built around me, and so we're trying to do that same work with our kids that go to our building. So I encourage you and would love to have anybody in the back of me included to come and join us on the 25th. I'll have more information for you, with more detailed budgets, how the tax rate was figured, and all of those sorts of things will be presented on the night of the 25th, but I wanted to give you sort of a read on where we stand at this point.
How many students now?
A little under 400, 380 some. It fluctuates. We have a fair amount of transiency, so it fluctuates some. Our equalized pupil count is up, actually, which also factors into the reason why our tax rate is going down, because our spending per pupil is down as well. So we're actually bucking the trend a little bit, yeah, because we have a pretty general increase in our population.
Questions? Anybody?
One question, what's your percent of free and reduced hot lunch?
That also fluctuates. It's between 75 and 80 would be a pretty conservative amount.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it stayed pretty consistent then over the years.
It has, yeah. It's a little bit harder to nail down, where we have participated in this community eligibility provision, which is a lunch program through the National School Lunch Administration, where they, if your free and reduced population goes over 50%, you can feed all kids free hot lunch and breakfast regardless of what the income level is. What that's done to our numbers is a little funny. When you have folks filling out income forms and they're going to get free or reduced lunch and breakfast if they fill it out, at a certain level of income, that has a little bit of a a carrot at the end of it, but if you ask people to fill out like that, I feel like there's maybe a little less of a carrot for people to fill out the income forms, maybe, I don't know, as well as they did before, but we've had to fight a little bit more to get information in on the free and reduced hot lunch, but it hovers around 75%. Yes.
Any other questions? Let's see, the 25th, is that what day, is that a?
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
Yeah, Monday at 6 o'clock.
That's an off week for us, right? So, because last year it conflicted this year, so it's an off week, so.
Good.
Mr. Roy?
Mr. Mayor, I didn't hear the percentage of the, for the proposed compared to the current year. Well,
You mean how much less it is compared to last year? We're at $156,000 less from this current year's spending to next year's proposed spending. It's a little over 1%.
so 1% decrease in.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, what does that do, how does that help the tax rate, or what does that do to the tax rate? Probably.
Wait, I could read your memo, I'll have.
Yeah, so it's a decrease of our portion is a decrease of almost 4 cents, so a little under 4 cents. Factoring in the high school and the junior high, it's at about 3 cents less.
3 cents per 100?
Less.
Per 100 if it's necessary?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anything else from anyone? Well, thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Next year I'll try and bring more baked goods.
Oh.
No worries.
Don't worry.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, it's in the city report.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, next item will be Memphremagog Community Maritime presentation, Patrick Martell, and.
Just gonna pull this up. I'm gonna make it full screen.
Yep.
And I wanna make sure that the volume works. I don't control the volume, so you might have to.
I don't hear the volume, it should have started.
Yeah, you got it locked out, so go down where the little speaker is with
Right
the
here.
X.
Yeah, right here, you gotta uncheck that. And then uncheck that.
Picture of the boat.
Yep.
The Northern Star.
Someone's starting over.
Yep.
And how do we turn it?
Yeah. Oh, wait, just step forward.
How do we turn, oops.
Yeah, she did check the volume.
We're here today from Memphremagog.
Okay, I'll go over here.
Maritime. Picture of the boat, the Northern Star. I think everyone knows the boat.
I can do it over here too.
There's a long tradition of having a passenger boat here on the lake. There are several boats. Many of you know the names from the old days, going back to the mid-1980s. The best known were the steamers made. The largest was Lady Venus.
Now that we know it works.
That works, good.
You can turn that one up too, I think. But we'll introduce Patrick Martell.
You just address the council from here, is that fine? So,
Chair, do you want to sit?
I can sit, yeah, it's not gonna take me very long, but I'll sit right here if that's okay. So, members of council, Mr. Mayor, Treasurer, City Manager, I appreciate you having us here. I'm the president of the Memphremagog Community Maritime Group, so formerly known as the Northern Star, still known as the Northern Star, and just to give you kind of a backdrop, we came together as a group back in October of 2017, and we've been meeting for the last 16 months, and we wanted to present you with this overview tonight. Really, it's informational for the council. We're not here to make any formal ask. We're not here to do any sort. There's one part of the video that you'll have here, and I'll instruct you if I can to disregard that as an ask and really just take in what Doug Coots says in this. Doug Coots is he's a member of our board of directors. He's a local resident owner, or a local property owner now. He's actually spent his career working for the United Nations, and is a professor at Auburn University. And So what he's going to be sharing in this presentation, like I said, is an overview of what we're doing with the Northern Star to give you some information at this point. And like I said, this isn't a formal ask. At this point, we'll schedule a time to come back on your agenda to address that. And that there is one. I'll just point you to that one section in there where Doug makes an ask in here. So if you could disregard that as an ask, that's not what we're doing tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to Doug Coots in our presentation. Thank you.
X up that, and the upper that little X. There.
Well, I'm here today from Memphremagog Community Maritime. Picture of the boat, the Northern Star. I think everyone knows the boat sitting here in the harbor in Newport. There's a long tradition of having a passenger boat here on the lake. There were several boats. Many of you know the names from the old days going back to the mid-1980s. The best known were the steamers, the Mountain Maid. The largest was Lady of the Lake, and the last was the Antimus. I guess that finished back in the 1950s, I understand. But all during that period, the boats were run on a commercial, private, profit basis. And that hasn't worked recently. This is the picture of the last boat that steamed the lake. Sailed on the lake in Newport and finished back in the mid-50s. Just to review the geography a bit here. This is a map of the watershed of Lake Memphremagog. We have the border right there, just north of Newport. Most of the people, of course, live on the Quebec side in this watershed, but most of the watershed is on the Vermont side. These are some of the figures, the detail of the square miles and such in Vermont and on the Quebec side. Most of the people, that is 200,000 people in that watershed section of Quebec, get their drinking water from the lake. There's also another major difference between the Quebec side and the Northeast Kingdom or the Orleans County side, in that the median income is much higher on the Quebec side. Many of us know, of course, that it's considered to be much of the stockbroker belt from Montreal along the lake, especially on the eastern side. On our side here in Vermont, Orleans County is a much smaller population, half the population of the watershed section in Quebec, and it's one of the poorest and most economically depressed parts of Vermont. Our plan with the boat, and this is a group of us who live here in Newport, the plan is to purchase the boat and to run the boat as a floating classroom, essentially, with 4 particular product and programming groups: boat tours, a maritime camp, educational programs, and also scientific research. That's our idea. The boat tours would be things like eco tours, tourism, the stargazing opportunities, perhaps cultural and heritage tours, scenic boat rides, foliage tours, specialty events, and then have it also available for particular functions like weddings and reunions, one-time events. Maritime camp, multi-day experience on maritime topics, getting our youth out on the water, seeing firsthand the issues surrounding the water quality and such in Lake Memphremagog. There are many precedents for this in the past where students from Orleans County have been out on the boat with these types of camps in the past. There was a particular program that has run for a number of years, I understand, that last year was run on Prouty Beach because the boat wasn't available. It involved a number of schools in Orleans County on watershed education, exploration, just basically getting our students out in the water to understand the lake. An example of our youth. And just to remind everyone, the future is our youth. What the youth in our communities know about the lake, appreciate the heritage that we have here at the lake, the water quality, the history of how the lake works really matters. Educational programs, the floating classroom part of the plan is really the main keystone. There would be the school trips, as I mentioned, independent programs for various schools, but in Vermont and Quebec both. We would do this in French and in English both. The MWA, the Memphremagog Watershed Association, has its youth lake tour, discovery cruise, which they've run in the past. We would continue to do that. University of Vermont has a water quality investigation, ongoing programs that they've used the boat for in the past, evidently. This could also include the University of Sherbrooke and Bishop's University. University of Vermont has had a Watershed Alliance lake ecology stations in the past. Would be a teacher and watershed education training, citizen science, hands-on opportunities to get our citizens out on the lake. The floating classrooms idea is not a new one. There are a number of examples in New England. One is at Lake George, for example, also Lake Champlain. Many examples in the region of floating classrooms with this hands-on aquatic learning concept. The fourth program, the fourth focus would be scientific research. Our two key partners, the Memphremagog Watershed Association and MCI, which is the counterpart on the Quebec side, have been approached by the International Joint Commission to do a water quality survey and study. They both are involved in this, and they need to get out on the water in order to undertake those studies. Expect that the boat would very much be in demand to assist. So our two key partners going forward would be the two groups that I've just mentioned, also nonprofits. One is based here in Vermont, the Memphremagog Watershed Association. The other is the Memphremagog Conservation Incorporated, or MCI. They would be our two key partners and the two key users of the boat, given their education programs that they both have. The Watershed Association was only founded back in 2007. It's an organization dedicated to the preservation of the environment overall and the watershed, and is very much involved in raising funds, writing grants and such for educational programs to take citizens, students and such, educators out on the lake. MCI is very similar, again, also a non-profit. The mission statement very similar to that of MWA. They have been around much longer and have a much larger membership organization, but they have the same basic goals and fundamental objectives that MWA has. So we have an overall complementarity of mission and mandate. MWA, MCI, and ourselves, the Maritime, the Memphremagog Community Maritime. We're the folks who have been focused on purchasing the boat. The donor base, however, is very modest on the Vermont side. The demographics favor Quebec, as I mentioned, more funding opportunities. In Quebec, MCI is much older, larger and richer than the MWA, than the MCA, the MWA. The donor market in this field, on both sides of the border, very much covered very well with MCI and MWA. So we see ourselves, the MCM, as being basically a programming and operational vehicle to help both of these organizations reach their objectives. So we would be writing joint grant proposals with both MCI and MWA in Vermont and Quebec. Again, given that the private for-profit commercial model for the boat hasn't worked in the past, this would be a non-profit model. So we have been discussing various options, various plans going forward, looking at setting up a foundation, the Northern Star Foundation, having it bilingual again, Fondation Étoile Polaire in French. We have already have already been granted our 501c3 status, nonprofit status with the US government. In the state of Vermont, we would do the same on the Quebec side with the Canadian government. This, of course, will facilitate joint appeals and grant writing to both organizations and help us expand the funding opportunities on both sides of the border. The Northern Star is an international boat on an international lake. Perhaps we fly both the US and Canadian flags. We register the boat in both countries. It's only registered now in the US. We would be bringing together the MCI and MWA as co-sponsors and co-users of the boat. Coast Guard certified in both countries, which hopefully would provide free passage on the lake. Much detail, many details there to be sorted out. Perhaps 2 home docks, Newport and Magog. And we'd also set up this foundation so that we could have an endowment that we would fundraise for. Where we're at now is we are in the middle of finalizing details to purchase the boat. We're preparing a working budget to run the boat. It's not just buying the boat. We also have to raise money for regular fixed costs, that we will have operational costs for the boat. We have to set up a working board with committees and assignments. We're working on our sales pitch to get the word out to the community about what the potential possibilities are to keep the boat here in Newport, including the Newport City Council, which will be a key discussion. We have met with MWA and MCI both. Strategy meetings, complementarity of the roles and mandates was something we've been meeting with them on, and brainstorming sessions on how we keep the boat here and run programs jointly with both NGOs. We're in the middle of finalizing a business plan, but when we buy the boat, we will be ready to hit the ground running with the various programs in that for the upcoming summer. Our first priority is, once the boat is purchased and the funds raised, is to hire a program director who will work full-time on grants and various fundraising opportunities that we've already identified. We simply haven't been able to pursue, and then prepare a program plan for this year, 2019. That's the key focus now, and then these joint grant submissions that we plan to be working on with both MWA and MCI. So for the community of Newport, Derby, those of us here in Orleans County in the Northeast Kingdom, we're reaching out to all of you. We need to target those of you who support education of our children, of our educators, of our teachers, want to help grow our local economy, bring more tourists into this area, and approach the movers and shakers, if you will, the pillars of the community who will understand and appreciate the fact that we are trying to achieve this objective. Target the influencers, the key opinion leaders of our community, respected authorities, and the thought leaders. I think this is very critical at this stage as we get the word out. And this presentation that I'm now doing is very much part of that. We see the boat as being a great opportunity to be a catalyst for community growth and transformation. So we're asking all of you who see this presentation, help us get the word out, help us be advocates, be our advocates here in our community. Help us fund and purchase the boat, contribute to our Keel Fund, we'll engrave your name on the hull. We will be supporting efforts to promote the Northern Star as an important asset that we can keep here, and we think you all would agree. And very importantly, help us convince the city of Newport to support and sponsor our efforts, and hopefully waiving the fees and charges that it's going to cost to keep the boat docked here in Newport. That can be quite expensive. We are also considering renaming the boat, repainting the boat, maybe renaming the boat to the Spirit of Newport, for example. Many various options. So I would say to all of you who are taking the time to watch this presentation, take a look, think about it, help us where you can, help us be advocates. We feel that it really is an opportunity for us that's been handed to us to keep this boat here on the lake. Keep in mind, the opportunity is critical, and it's a one-time opportunity, because no one would ever been able to bring this boat here otherwise. The boat's here, and it's available, and there are many in the community who really believe that we have a serious opportunity to keep the boat here on the lake and use it as a floating classroom educational resource for all of us. Thank you.
So, Councilman, Mr. Mayor, this just a short update of that, and I said, you know, and I've asked the mayor and that this was just informational for the community and for you as the council members currently, but there are some updates that are happening right now. So some of those fundraising efforts that Doug talked about was prior. This video was made a little bit prior to some of these things. And we're going to announce that publicly before the end of February to the media, and so that they'll know what the public will know what is happening with the boat as far as the purchase, and that will be going forward. So just to give you some clarity on that, and that will happen fairly soon, and. But we just wanted to give you this update as an informational and piece, and we really wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, so it wasn't a lot of speculation of what's happening with the boat around town, particularly with the council here. So I appreciate you letting us share tonight, and so Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to answer any of the council members' questions if there was questions, but we're not really here for that. We just wanted to present that as an informational for you tonight, and not really for public at this point for those questions, and even that the media is here. We're going to make that announcement publicly, and we look forward to being invited back to your agenda probably sometime in March. So thank you very much for letting us.
Thank you. The little glitch you saw in the beginning, that's in your actual video.
Oh, really?
It's not
where it buffers?
Yeah. It's in the YouTube video because I downloaded it and I played it at home just to see it, and so for some reason this, but it's nice video.
We'll have to re-upload it.
No, nice video. It's good.
I do want to, I'm sorry for my voice. I do want to make sure I ask Patrick what exactly he meant by what is happening with the boat as far as the purchase will happen fairly soon. I didn't really understand that. Can you explain that a little differently? Is that possible?
Sure. Yeah. So we're moving forward with some purchase options that we've looked at right now. We're still in the process of negotiating that. So at this point, we're not at liberty to share that with the public. However, we would invite the media, and we would invite anyone that wants to know about it at that point, and it's fairly soon. We want to let folks know exactly what's happening in a proper way, because it's a great community partnership that I think when the story is there, you'll see what we've done, and I'm very thankful for the last 16 months of our members and board members that have stuck with the project. And what's very interesting is I was looking at, somebody shared some documents with me from 1918. And 1918, there was a boat called Anthemus that had some challenges, and the challenges were the city of Newport was not sure whether or not Anthemus was the city was going to own Anthemus at one point. And actually in 1919, a group of people came together and they raised some funds and put some things together. And in 1919, 100 years ago, a very similar thing happened with Anthemus that's happening with the Northern Star right now. So I think when the story comes out of how community came together and a small group of people came together and they came to share and ask the council that please look at what we're doing and let us come back and share our plans with you. I think it'll be a great story for the community of Newport. I think it'll be a great story for our society in general. So that's kind of where we're at right now, if that answers it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think you can answer this, but if you can't, you can't. Are things at the stage now where the bank can discuss it? Have they settled their problems?
As far as I know, yeah, I think that would be a bank's public comment if they're willing to do that, but it's not our place to make that comment currently.
But they haven't stopped you from negotiating with them?
That's correct. That's correct, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, and it's the North Country Credit Union who currently owns the boat?
Yes, North Country Federal Credit Union, yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, is time on the essence here? Are there any other people looking at the boat?
You probably,
No.
you know more than we do.
No, yeah, no, there's nobody looking at the boat. And so many of you that were at the public auction, there was only us, being Memphremagog Community Maritime, that had any interest in the Northern Star, so. yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, in the bank, is that because the bank bought it from the subs essentially, didn't they?
I don't think
I'm
that's
not quite sure how
accurate.
that
Yeah, I don't know. There is public record for that, and for any of the media, there is public record for that in the court documents. And I believe that's all on, I don't know if it's LexisNexis or one of those, but all of that is public record of that. And so, if the bank wanted to make a comment, I imagine they would at this point. But as far as I know, they are the sole owner of the Northern Star currently.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
anything else? Then thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is the coin drop request. And we have all the coin drops and the dates and times, and they went through and they were ranked in the order they came in, and went along with the policy. And so right now we're looking at Veterans of Foreign Wars on May 25th, Newport Parks and Recreation, June 8th, the Fire Department on July 6th, American Legion, August 17th, the Veterans of VFW, the first one was the auxiliary, this is the actual post, the VFW post, on September 14th, the Newport Rec Committee on the 12th, and Disabled American Veterans on November 9th. And that's the requested coin drops that meets the policy, and we would need to approve this tonight.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
A motion's been made, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Made and second, discussion on the coin drops. Then hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, coin drops are approved. Moving on, new business, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, I've got a request for a liquor license for a new establishment. These people are taking over the old car wash, I guess. I thought they might be here, but don't think they are. Have you had a chance to look at this yet?
I have not. I preliminarily looked at it. I have not finished my report yet, so I would ask the council if they could give me a future meeting date to be able to say that that one's ready to go.
It's customary that the chief reviews all liquor license, all new ones, and this is the new one. We're not meeting next week. We are meeting next week. Yeah, you're right, we are meeting next week. Whatever time frame he needs.
Chief, would that be all right to,
I'm sorry, I didn't.
we're meeting next week, would it be all right to have it by then?
You have a meeting next week?
Yes.
Yeah, I can have it done by
We
then.
have it then, okay. I forgot we were meeting next week, you're right. Okay, so we'll hold off on that then, until we hear from the chief. Other new business, Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I've got a application for a special event permit. This is Kingdom Games are putting this on. It's at the east side on I know I saw that. Saturday, February 23rd. Looks like it's a tasting event. You just need an approval for it. Anybody wants to look at it. We've done those before. This company that's doing it out of Harvard.
Excuse me.
We've done them before.
Is that Bar Hill?
Caledonia Spirits.
Caledonia Spirits.
It's Bar Hill.
Bar Hill?
Bar
They make
Hill's,
the Bar Hill.
one of Caledonia Spirits brands.
Oh, okay. All I know is they're building a huge facility in Montpelier.
That's right.
It must be the same weekend of the swim. Is that the same weekend of the swim, where they're swimming in the lake?
I have no idea.
It is.
It is? Okay. Go for a swim and have a spirit to warm up after.
And that'll be part of the pajama party that night.
Pajama party. Okay.
So we need a motion to
So we-
approve that.
Oh, okay, I don't know. So we need a motion to approve it then.
Make a motion to approve that.
A motion's been made, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Made and seconded, discussion? Then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries.
Okay, so the last thing I got is an application of Niles funds. I'll pass it down so you can see it. The person does qualify for this. Nobody got any questions on that particular thing? I do need a
So,
motion
yeah,
for
we
that.
need a motion for that, to approve the NOWS fund
I'll
request.
make a motion to approve that request.
Motion been made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Made and seconded to approve the NOWS fund request. Any discussion? Then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries.
That's it?
That's it. Any new business?
No, sir.
Anything new?
No.
I don't have anything, anything new?
Two things. This is for Mr. Bernier. Obviously, this time of year, it's kind of hard to patch holes around the city with the freezing and the rain, and everything else we've gotten. But there are 4 pretty bad potholes in the city. I don't know what you can do about them, just want to make you aware of them, and you're probably already aware of them. The one down here at Railroad Square. There's one over on Prouty Drive, right by Dr. Wiley's office.
Okay.
Route 5 up by Mr. O's. And also over here on West Main and Lake Streets, where they connect, right down around there. And then the other thing was, what's the status of our salt and gravel capacities? Are we pretty much a good space right now? Are we?
You want me to be truthful or lie to you?
Make me feel good.
I'm over on overtime and I'm at about probably 85% right now of my materials.
Do you expect to get more in soon?
Salt?
Yeah.
Oh, I order it as needed.
Okay.
I just ordered 3 loads today. So probably I'm at 90%.
Okay. Great, thank you.
And wait for this to freeze tomorrow night when it goes down to single digits. That's what's gonna happen.
Thank you.
Okay. Any new business? Anything new? Old business, Mr. Johnson? No. Mr. Sherman? Ms. Rubone?
No.
The only old business I have is thank you to the rec department for the event Saturday. It was nice. Went well.
Thank you for coming.
Any old business?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Any old business? Old business? Okay, then the next Regular council meeting will be Monday, February 11th, 6:30 PM. We need a motion to adjourn at 7:45.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion been made, is there a second? Seconded. Discussion, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we're adjourned.